Good morning, Facebook. I apologize. I am a little late. I have had a very busy week. We had a mare that foaled over the weekend, and unfortunately, we've had some pretty serious complications with that. So both mama and baby are at CSU today, and we spent most of our evening there praying that she make it through the evening, and she did, and things are looking promising for her. However, our little filly is colicking at the moment, and so we're working through that. So one of the things I wanted to touch base with you this week is, last week I mentioned I was in training, and one of the things that came up at training was the word boundaries. And what does that mean? Good morning, Nancy. What does that mean, and how do you set them to feel safe for you, yet not necessarily worry about offending the person or the boundary that you're setting? And so a couple things I want to talk to you about. Good morning, Lori. A couple things I want to talk to you about setting boundaries and what that looks like is 5 different things in order for you to help set boundaries in your personal life or in your business life. Maybe it's with somebody that you have a personal relationship with, a friend, maybe it's even your spouse or your children. And the first thing is know your limits. And that's really knowing yourself. And that's the key to creating and maintaining good boundaries. You need to know your emotional, mental, and physical limits and work out what makes you feel uncomfortable or stressed and what actually makes you feel good so that you are able to create a healthy boundary. Good morning, Barb. The other thing is that I want you to learn and think about how to read your feelings. And when you're assessing where your limits are, you may have felt a range of different emotions. And there's 2 key emotions that signal that your boundaries are being crossed, that you have some sort of a resentment or discomfort around what is going on with you and that other person. And if you feel you're being taken advantage of, not appreciated, or even being exploited, that's really a sign that your boundary is being pushed beyond what is comfortable for you. And it's time to really assert your position and establish a stronger boundary. And one of the things I tell people all the time is that no is a full and complete sentence. So something to think about. The third thing I want you to think about and really reflect on is give yourself permission to enforce those boundaries. A lot of times people feel guilty when they're establishing some sort of a boundary. And I want you to focus on you and not so much the other person and worry about their feelings. And like I just said, it's definitely okay to say no. In fact, it's necessary for your self-respect to maintain your boundaries and refuse any unwelcome requests. There's no room for guilt or self-doubt when you're establishing these boundaries. You need to have clear boundaries, and sticking to them is not selfish. You need to think about putting yourself first, and when you do that, you're ensuring that you will have the energy to do the things you want to do and be there for the people when it's right for you. Another thing to think about is to be clear what's actually up for negotiation and what's a deal breaker for you. Know what you need to stay happy and healthy with on a daily basis. Make it clear that there are things that are non-negotiable for you, and be clear that you won't host things like family parties if that's something that you're not comfortable with or that you want to do, or maybe that you have a regular routine at the gym and you're not comfortable changing that. So you want to make sure that you establish a clear boundary and not feel like you have to compromise that in order to make the other person comfortable or happy. The last thing I want to talk to you about is be direct. When you are clear about your boundaries, you don't need an excuse. You just need to be very clear. There doesn't need to be a backstory why you've created the boundary. You don't need a note from your mother or some sort of permission in order to create that boundary. Just be very direct and leave it at that. You can be polite and kind and still be strong in the end. And again, saying no is something that a lot of times is not in people's vocabulary. And especially mothers, they feel like they need to continue to give. And it is okay to say no and create clear boundaries for yourself, for your family, for your loved ones. So I hope this tip was helpful for you. Again, you are always welcome to reach out for a free exploratory session to see how I can help you further. Until next week, make it a great day. And I do want to share that I have a great interview coming out on Tuesday with our Touched by a Horse podcast, where I share my journey around fertility and my dream of becoming a mother. That is in our book, Touched by a Horse, Equine Coaching Stories, the third anthology, which can be found on my website or on Amazon. And I'm super excited to do a Facebook Live on Friday with the Colorado Bar Association. I hope that I will be able to do their live with them, as well as do a live from Withers Whisper as well. So have a fantastic week, and I look forward to seeing you next week, Monday.